Hey, this is Kevin Kelly. Get ready for the latest episode of the Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I am joined as ever by Matt Turner for what could be, Matt, the shortest episode in Stardom Cast history.
With the shortest combined, because some of the solo ones that I've done have gone like roughly around an hour. So yes, there's really only not too much to talk about. We just have the one show as of this recording. The show on the second just went up a handful of hours ago. I did not get a chance to watch it. I don't think you did either, sir, but I hope you're doing well. I'm doing fantastic, Mr. Rob Goodwin, as here in the States, we were just coming off Labor Day weekend, so I had a few days off work. So I am rested, recharged, and super excited for my action-packed, loaded weekend. Before I tell you what I got going on this weekend, how's everything with you? How are you doing today? How was your weekend? And what do you have going on in the life of one Mr. Rob Goodwin?
You can't leave us all hanging like that. You can't make it sound like you've got this really important week coming up and then be like, let's throw to Rob where, you know, no, we'll talk about me afterwards, Matt Turner. Matt Turner, what have you got going on?
I'm trying to be a gentleman and let you go first, but since you're tagging me back in, no problem. So this Friday, as this airs, I'm going to see Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie in concert. So that should be a banging fun time. And then Saturday is the return of Team Blue and Gold. Rob Goodwin, myself, and Andy Header are teaming up for the first time in roughly around a year. He's just been so busy doing his singles thing, and I've been so busy doing everything in the world that we just haven't had time to team up. But what a better place for the reunion of the comic book themed tag team than at a comic book convention in the Poconos at Colossal Con this weekend, Rob Goodwin.
I mean, what a fantastic... I mean, we're talking about Andy Header. Andy Header, of course, who has been in or will be in a singles match against, of all people, Shun Skywalker from Dragon Gate.
Yeah, I think that's next week. So he got to slum it with me at a comic book convention this week, and then the week after he gets to wrestle the guy from Dragon Gate. And I think he's done a handful of shows of Pro Wrestling Know as well. I could be wrong, but yeah, that's just the crux of the independence, my friend. It's
crazy that's a thing. Am I right in thinking that that's for Kevin Kelly's promotion as well?
Yeah, I don't think Kevin runs it anymore because I think that's the one he started. I could be wrong. I think he started and got it off the ground, but I think he handed it off to somebody else because he's just so busy with New Japan, and now he's working for AEW as well.
Yeah, that would make sense. So, an incredible weekend lined up for you. How was your Labor Day weekend? Obviously, us here in the United Kingdom, we don't celebrate Labor Day. It's just another weekend. It was actually really, really nice weather as well, so it was nice just to chill in the garden with a beer and just generally enjoy life. Though it is a bit too hot today. I'm going to do the British thing of complaining that it is far too hot. I went for a run earlier today and immediately regretted it as I came in and I was supposed to have a meeting straight after lunch, and my face was it was beetroot red. It was pouring with sweat. I looked like a completely different person, so I had to postpone the meeting so that my face could fall back into place so that I could then have this incredibly important and professional meeting. But other than that, it's been a decent weekend. I mean, for a start, it's been a fantastic weekend of wrestling. Obviously, we had Payback, we had All Out, and of course, the main event itself, the 5-star special in Hiroshima.
Yeah, I did not get a chance to see All Out. I wasn't I was a little exhausted when I got done with the side job on Sunday. Again, it was Labor Day weekend, so it was busy to say the least. So, and I kind of looked at the card and was like, maybe I'll catch it at another time. But nothing but rave reviews. So kudos on AEW. Obviously, they're coming on the back end of some really kind of distracting news with, with another story for another day. And they're able to pretty much, what I heard, hit a home run. I did watch Payback yesterday, and I thought that show was really, really good. And, maybe it's my bias here, but maybe it's not. But I think out of everything that I watched this weekend, nothing pales in comparison to the 5-star special from the ones and only, the true kings and queens of professional wrestling, Stardom, Rob Goodwin.
Indeed, it was a fantastic show. It really was. There was some interesting things to come out of it, which makes for some interesting discussion. I know that both of us disagree on something, which doesn't happen very often, so that's going to make for some interesting chatter a bit later. As Matt's already said, we know that there was a show also from Hiroshima in the 5-star Grand Prix night 13. That dropped. It was from the 2nd of September. That dropped earlier today. And with everything we've got going on, we simply didn't have time to watch it and have time to record today and get it out to patrons on Thursday. We just simply couldn't. So what we'll do is we will tag night 13 with Mayu versus Amisori. I think it's also got Julia and Momo Watanabe, and I think Utami Mariah May as well. Oh, and Azumi Mina Shirakawa are all on that show. So we'll definitely be talking about it next week, as well as Dream Tag Festival, because good grief, Matt Turner, these shows just keep on rolling. But before we get into all of this wonderful Stardom news, tell me, what did you get onto with your Labor Day weekend?
Labor Day weekend, I was off Friday and Monday. My company that I work for, they give us Monday off, and they give us Friday off as well. I tacked on another Tuesday because I rarely take time off, and I have a whole bunch of vacation days left to use. So it was really just getting in some extra sleep, kind of redoing. Usually Labor Day weekend is when I redo my comic book room, because we're only about, as of this recording, about 6 weeks out from New York Comic Con. So I have to start prepping things and trying to get things ready. We had a nice cookout on Monday over my mother-in-law's. She cooked everybody giant steaks. And then I noticed when everybody was done eating, there still was like 5 or 6 steaks left. So I even said, was it like buy 5, get 5 free? Like, you're not feeding the whole entire neighborhood, bless her. But that, and there was a lot of wrestling watching. I got everything done on the Julia Cinderella 2020, her Cinderella win for the Patreon. And that's already recorded, uploaded, and it should be in the Patreon feeds next week. And I'm getting ready to start the Azumi high-speed run. So even though, Rob Goodwin, I was off work, I was not off my main job, I was not off on any of my other 84 side projects I do, because I do not believe in days off. But had longer workouts at the gym, didn't have to rush around to get anything done. And also, too, on Friday, Lily and I took Lily out for lunch. Lily's my daughter, for all of our new listeners, and hello. We took her out for lunch, and we went to go see Blue Beetle, which was actually really, really good. I really enjoyed it, and it's something that I recommend. Even if you're not a comic book fan, it's a nice family movie that has a lot of heart. So I did that as well on Friday, and then kind of just caught up on some things around the house without having to be pressed on time.
Sounds like a lovely, wholesome weekend. What a way to spend your Labor Day. And the idea of those steaks is making me incredibly, incredibly hungry. But, nevertheless, Matt, let's talk about what is coming up on our Patreon this week.
Oh boy, we have dropped a lot over the last 7 or 8 days. Saya Kamatani, Wonder of Stardom Championship reign, all 17 matches. That is up on your Patreon feed. And dare I say, Rob Goodwin, it is, in my opinion, the greatest run in the history of the Wonder of Stardom Championship. And dare I say, not 100% convinced on this. This may be a future roundtable discussion. I think Saya Kamatani's V15 on the white belt is better than the Io Shirai's V14 on the red belt, I think.
Ooh.
I'm not 100% sure. You know how much I love that V14 from Io Shirai. I think this size reign is just as good, if not better. Again, we'll do that for our Christmas roundtable discussion. Maybe that'll be a nice little Christmas treat for our Patreon listeners. Obviously, that's something that you and I will discuss in the upcoming months off air. Also, too, we have what if Io Shirai did not leave for the WWE in 2018 fantasy booking. We have a roundtable discussion between myself and one Rob Goodwin, who we think are the top tag teams in the history of Stardom. We also have released alternate commentary, one time only in Stardom, loading death match as Natsu Sumire teams up with Kagetsu to take on my ultimate dream team of Io Shirai and Tam Nakano. And that was a wild one to call, to say the least. And then also coming up next week, alternate commentary, we have Jungle Kiona challenging Arisa Hoshinki for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. So yes, so if you are a part of our Patreon, number one, we thank you. We thank you for the support. And two, you have a load of stuff to get through because we have dropped off a whole bunch of quality content your way.
Yeah, I feel like we have slightly bombarded you, ladies and gentlemen, and I do apologise. It was because it doesn't take a lot to throw us collectively, but the fact that there was 5 weeks in August, or there was an odd number of weeks, or something happened basically that completely threw me out of whack, and it suddenly became apparent that I'd need to drop 2 things on the same weekend. So I apologise. We will try not to do that again. But anyway, that aside, let's get to some news. The first being that AEW announced that their Wrestle Dream show, the latest pay-per-view in their canon, will be taking place from Seattle on October 1st. And the reason I bring this up is because Tony Khan, this entire show, I'll preface by saying, is in memory of the late, great Antonio Inoki. So Tony Khan has announced that he would like top stars from New Japan and Stardom to take part in Wrestle Dream on October 1st. So first things first, I think it's a lovely idea to do something as a tribute to Antonio Inoki. I think it's inevitable that AEW are going to up their pay-per-view output. However, Tony Khan has said about how he wants New Japan and Stardom talent on this show. I know that he specifically name-dropped Mercedes Moné, who was in the crowd at All In London. His scheduling leaves a little bit to be desired, because on that day, there is a New Japan Korakuen show, which the card has already been announced. And as far as I can tell, the only people missing off that card are Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. So make of that what you will. Stardom, of course, that is the day after the Cinderella, the 5-star final. And I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, Stardom have a show the next day. So they do. They have a Korakuen. So I don't exactly know what is going to happen there. Whether that will be a case of something like Julia, where they sort of literally parachute her from the 5-star final to Seattle. I don't know. I don't know what the logistics of that are, but it seems very strange that Tony Khan would announce this. The only thing that I can think is, I know that there's a Rumble on the pre-show, so rather than getting someone like Mayu or Utami or Julia, maybe someone like, and this is no disrespect to any of the undercard talent, but someone like a Momo Kogo or something like that going over for Wrestle Dream. I can't see. I'd be very, very surprised if any of the main talent from Stardom turn up and aren't on that Korakuen show, Matt.
Well, I mean, Momo Kogo's over in the States. I mean, I saw her live at the ECW arena. She got a major pop, and I know she was over when they did the little mini tournament for the New Japan Strong Championship with a match with Willow Nightingale. So Momo Kogo could very well, and she speaks very good English, and she really does a great job transcending to the American crowd. So Momo Kogo would be a great pick to send over. You know, maybe her, a Saida, maybe a Hana, Rina, and Hina as well, just to maybe get the sisters over here in the States in front of the American audience. So yeah, we shall see. It always seems like whenever there's this joint show in America where it looks like Stardom gets tapped on, it doesn't seem like the that people do their research enough. I could be wrong and to be saying, oh yeah, that's right. They have a big show, and the day before is one of the biggest shows of the entire year in the 5-star final. So fingers crossed, maybe we get 2 or 3 of the Stardom wrestlers on that show, because I got a feeling that it's going to sell a ton of tickets, and of course it's going to be seen by a worldwide audience. So we shall see as we get closer and closer to that date. And then, well, that date's less than a month away. So yeah, we'll see kind of what pops up.
And it's a really busy time for Stardom. I've already mentioned that obviously the 30th of September, the day before, is the 5-star final itself from Yokohama Budokan. But also the night before is New Blood 11, and the day after they've got that aforementioned Korakuen Hall show. So again, I'd be surprised, especially it's not even like someone like a Julia isn't in a high-profile match. She is in what everyone suspects will be the Blue Block final against Utami. So it's not even like that match is going to go on first. So I'd be surprised if main talent turned up. But there we are. Maybe in future, other people, the scheduling will be a little bit better. The New York Joshi promotion, it has been fully announced now. It's called Sukuban, per the Pro Wrestling Insider. This is not, and I don't know if anyone has taken the time to follow the Twitter channel, the Twitter page, sorry, not the Twitter channel, showing my age there, and sort of looked at the introduction videos and things like that. It's not at all what I thought it was going to be. The roster's been announced, though, with some notable names, and I'll read them out to you now. Ram Kai-Chao, who is going to be called the Atomic Banshee. Kaori Yoneyama, who we, of course, know as Fukigen Death. She's going to be playing Ataku-chan. Aoi, who we've seen on New Blood shows, and of course she's from Just Tap Out with Tomoka Inaba. She's going to be the Midnight Player. Bingo, who is a mystery person. Unagi Sayaka is going to be playing Ishigo Sayaka. I am probably butchering these names. I apologize. Mai Yukihi is going to be playing Maya Mamushi. Saki is going to be playing Saki Bimi. Ancham is going to be playing Babyface. Yu is going to be called Crush Yu, ironically. We've got Supersonic. We've got Riko Kaiju, who's going to be playing Riko Blondie. Saori Ano is going to be playing Countess Saori. Arisa Nakajima is going to be playing Commander Nakajima. Risa Seira is going to be playing Lady Antoinette, which for some strange reason really makes me laugh. Miyuki Takase is going to be playing the Queen of Hearts. And then we've also got what is called the Stray Cat. Now, from what I've seen, talent is sort of split up into different factions, let's say. But it's very cartoony, very anime in its presentation. And I've seen quite a few people compare it to a Lucha Underground sort of vibe. The 4 groups or factions that are going to be in Sukiban are the Vandals, the Cherry Bomb Girls, the Dangerous Liaisons, and the Harajuku Stars. If you want to learn more about this promotion, then obviously follow their Twitter at Sukiban_world, or Scotty Wrestling is doing a lot of coverage as well. The reason that I've brought this up is obviously we have got people like Kaori Yoneyama, Unagi Sayaka, Saori Ano, and Risa Seira, who of course we've just seen challenge Julia for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, all taking place in this. I suppose if this is going to be filmed in the same way as a Lucha Underground, where you do batch tapings, there might not be a noticeable impact on Stardom, Matt. But from what you've seen of this, from what you've seen of the world premiere of the introduction video, are you excited about it?
Wow, I don't have my notes in front of me. Was Tomoka Inaba announced for this? I don't remember if you mentioned her name.
I thought Tomoka Inaba was originally slated on the roster. However, I can't find any note of her. I could be wrong, and I probably am, but I can't. I'm looking at Scotty Wrestling's page now because he's got the breakdown of the groups. No, he hasn't.
No, maybe
very
she got
strange.
signed to full time. Yeah, maybe she got fully signed to Stardom. Fingers crossed, right? Maybe that's why.
I mean, if that's the way, if that's what's happening, I am more than happy with that.
Yeah, because we haven't really seen her on Stardom proper in quite some time. I was going to go to the show because New York City is only about an hour and a half away, give or take, from me. So I was going to go to the show to see what it was all about and cover it. But I guess the tickets went on sale when I didn't do my due diligence. They went on sale while I was in the movies. I mentioned on Friday when Lily and I went to go see Blue Beetle. And by the time I got to the movie theaters, they mentioned they sold out of tickets. So I was like, oh, okay. So I will find a way to cover this on a VOD or something like that sometime in the future, or figure something out. But I don't know the venue they're running. I don't know how many seats that they sold. Maybe it was 200, maybe it was 2,000. That I don't know. But yeah, it's something completely different. There's a lot of talent in there. You know, you have Unagi. You mentioned Saori Anu. You mentioned Kori Oniyama, which means if there's a three-way, you know that she is winning via O'Connor role. But we have to see if that's in her contract. Maybe that's just a Stardom thing. I don't know. Arisa Nakajima. I mean, there is some great Joshi talent in there. But I thought it would just be like a straight-up kind of like what they're doing with Spark Joshi. It'd be like straight-up matches. But it seems like that they're doing a little twist on it. And kudos to you, sir, putting like the Lucha Underground theme on it. Because that's, once you mention it, I'm like, that's kind of seems like what they're doing. They kind of want to put their own touch on these characters and maybe own their own IP. And who knows, maybe spin off a comic book or an anime out of it. I mean, who knows? But the fact that these fantastic Joshi wrestlers are going to be seen in New York City, one of the biggest cities in the world, and in front of a lot of wild and rabid wrestling fans, because the New York City fan base is they're very smart, they're very knowledgeable, they're very passionate about their pro wrestling. I think it's only going to be a slam dunk for everybody involved, and I'm interested to see where this goes and what they do with it.
Yeah, I'll hold my hands up. It was someone on Twitter that actually mentioned the Lucha Underground parallels, but it does sort of give that sort of vibe. Which, again, you mentioned it before, complete kudos to them for trying something completely different. It would be incredibly easy to sort of do what Spark Joshi are doing. Obviously, they're running another show as well, I believe, in Orlando. I haven't got the date in front of me, but it's soon. So it would be quite easy to do that. And obviously, Pro Wrestling Kitsune, which I know is being run by the Joshi Pod, I know that's coming up in October. So, Joshi is having far more of a spotlight being shone on it lately. And credit to Sukiban for doing something completely different. The world premiere to the first show, which is going to be September 21st, just in New York City, it says. I can't find the actual venue at the moment, but I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments. It sold out in just 2 hours. So the hype is very real surrounding this company. When I first saw that the likes of Saori Ano, people like Kaori Oniyama and people like that, I was a little bit concerned. I was like, how is this going to impact Stardom? But again, if it's going to be the case where you can do a set of tapings and then go back to Japan, it's not necessarily going to be that much of an issue. And, with all the respect in the world, I am more bothered, obviously, about Saori Ano than I am Kaori Oniyama, because Oniyama wrestles at the moment less on the Stardom roster than Ano does. And obviously, she's a goddess of Stardom champion, so I want to see those belts defended. Final thing that I just want to go through. Natsu Sumire has announced her Decade of Queens 10th anniversary show on October 8th from Shinjuku Face. From the 18th of October, not the 8th. But what is interesting about this show is we have Stardom talent being featured and a singles match in something that can be likened to a dream match. Let's be honest, Utami Hayashishita versus Veni, which, to my knowledge, hasn't happened before. But what a matchup to see for the very first time. It is worth noting as well that Veni has dropped the Asuka part of the name. It is just Veni now. But also on the card, we have a 6-woman tag with Natsu Sumire, Rina Yamashita, and Kaho Kobayashi taking on Azumi, Takumi Iroha, and Saki Akai. So a pretty loaded show for Shinjuku Face, and I imagine that those tickets will go very, very quickly, even just off the strength of that main event, Matt.
Yeah, Veni is somebody that I've seen a handful of her work, and she's absolutely fantastic. Majority of the work I've seen is on those Hana Kimura memorial shows where they've done a great job spotlighting her. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, I think she had a singles match with Sherry on, I think it was last year's show that absolutely stole the show and really lit up Korakuen Hall. And obviously Utami's Utami, so she's one of the best in the world. That match, that main event is going to be killer. And they said there's going to be some more Stardom involvement, so I wouldn't be shocked if you had like a Julia on the show, if you had some of the Yoedo Tai members, because Natsu Sumire, that was the group she was affiliated with the most. So I wouldn't be shocked if you have a Starlight Kid, if you have a Ruwaka, Momo Watanabe, Natsuko Tora as well. So we'll see how the rest of the card shapes up. But just based on those two matches, yeah, it's something definitely to look forward to, and two matches that I'm definitely excited to see.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I have seen criminally little of Veni. I know that the matches that she's been a part of have always been hyped up, and I know that she is perhaps one of the most hyped up Joshi wrestlers that isn't signed to Stardom. So I saw the match against Kagetsu, which I believe was sort of an impromptu thing on the first Hana Kimura Memorial show, and that was really good. And like you mentioned before, the match with Syuri, which was also very, very good. So this has the potential to be incredible, and I am very, very excited by it. So make sure in your calendars, 18th of October, Shinjuku Face, Decade of Queens. And with that, let's kick straight into the Stardom 5-Star Grand Prix 2023, Night 14, the 5-Star special in Hiroshima, the only show that we're going to be covering today, in front of 825 people from the Hiroshima Sun Plaza. A couple of things to note before we go into anything, Matt. This show there's two elephants in the room in regard to this show. So the first is obviously the attendance, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And the second of which, from what I can see, is the order of the matches, which, again, we're going to talk about in a moment. This 825 people, if you compare it to the last time Stardom ran Hiroshima, which was the Hiroshima Goddess Festival in November of 2022, which was main evented by Syuri versus Maika, and then of course had Saya Kamatani and Mina Shirakawa second from the top, which resulted in that injury to Mina. That drew over 1,000 people, 1,045 people. So this 825 has got to be seen as a negative for Stardom, especially when you consider that night 11 from the 26th of August, which was just your standard 5-star night, from Nagoya Congress Center Event Hall in Aichi, drew 908 people, and that had no title matches on it. So there's a couple of conclusions you can draw from this. One, of course, is that Nagoya is a far hotter market for Stardom than Hiroshima. The second is, are Stardom starting to saturate the market with the sheer volume of pay-per-views that they are offering to people at the moment? I mean, if you look at what we've got, we've just had Stardom X Stardom, Midsummer Fairs, this show, we've got Dream Tag Festival coming up next week. It's a lot of shows. So I wonder if a little bit of burnout is beginning to happen with the crowd. Matt, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on this number? Are you disappointed in this number? Talk to me.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in this number just because I mean it was a beautiful venue. Stardom does a great job, and they're doing a great job upping their production, their cameras, even on what we call that kind of the road to shows. The camera work and the entrances and the lighting, and the way that everything's mic'd has been a lot better. They really do go all out for these pay-per-views. So the stage and everything looked good, and then I'm kind of just as the show's getting going, kind of notices, boy, that seems like it's probably a little less than 1,000. I figured this would have drawn 1,500 people based on the show, and the number is not inclusive of the quality of this show, because this show was absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
A must see show. I think I text you as soon as the show was over, letting you know, I was like, hey, this tag match was one of the best goddess matches in the history of Stardom, one of the best tag matches on any wrestling company this year. So it definitely wasn't the quality, but I kind of, if you're asking me to give my opinion why the number was under 1,000, I kind of agree with you. The only thing that I could put my finger on is just the the oversaturation of these pay-per-views. That's the only thing I could think of. I mean, maybe Hiroshima's not a really big draw. Maybe there was something else going on in the area that day that I don't know. Obviously, I'm not from the area, so I wouldn't know. But 825 people, again, it's not a bad house, but for what Stardom's been drawing for the last 2 years, especially on a show this loaded that has Julie on top as the main event. You have a fantastic Goddess of Stardom tag match and 3 absolute must-see 5-star matches, loaded in there as well. So you kind of figured, I don't know why this didn't draw well over 1,000 people. Again, the quality of the show was nothing short of A+ in my opinion. But that number, I do see it as a little bit of a disappointment. It's not going to break the company by any means. But to answer your question, the only reason why this number wasn't in the right around the upper 900s to 1,000 level, my only conclusion is just because of the constant, consistent numbers of pay-per-views that Stardom's been putting on, and it might be just a little bit of a burnout, from the paying audience over there in the Hiroshima area.
And don't forget, of course, that Stardom ran that show on the 2nd of September in Hiroshima, so back-to-back shows. And again, it could be a case of Hiroshima just not being a very hot market for Stardom. They do tend to run there a couple of times a year, so again, we'll see. I just thought that was rather interesting that, even on the face of it, it's not like it looked like a weak card. You think about the 5-star matches, and you think, good God, there's some absolute bangers on here. Really, really, really good matches. You got Utami versus Momo Watanabe, really good match. Tam versus Starlight Kid, probably Starlight Kid's best match of the tournament so far. Syuri versus Mayu, which was fantastic. And to be honest, the only real, and I don't want to say the word low point, because we sort of expected shenanigans from the high-speed title match, especially when you consider the sort of champion that Saki is portraying at the moment. Again, neither knock on Saki or Momo Kogo, but we knew that would be that would sort of fly under the radar, let's say. But you've already mentioned it. We've got a tag title match of the year contender between Poi and Soriano versus Meisera and Suzu Suzuki, and a potential coming out party for Meisera, who I thought was the MVP of a very, very, very good match. Mirai versus Konami, aside from one hellishly scary bump, which I'm sure we'll talk about, this was another really, really, really good match. I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this match. And we'll talk about that as well. And then obviously we've got another New Japan Strong women's title defense to top it off. Julie versus Risa Sera. So we had 4 title matches, 3 really good and possibly match of the tournament so far in Syuri versus Mayu. It's certainly not a weak card. We'll see. We'll see how Dream Festival does at Yokohama, because obviously Yokohama, I know, is a better market for Stardom. One thing I do just want to talk about before we get into the nitty-gritty of this show, the crowd, Matt, the 825 that did turn up, and here's worth noting as well, and this is just for me, it tickles me that there were 825 people in attendance, and so far the current rating for this show on Cage Match is 8.25. I just think that's really cool. It does not take a lot to entertain me, as you can tell. They were almost deathly silent throughout the vast majority of the match. I feel like the Stardom roster had to work incredibly hard to elicit any reaction from this crowd.
Yeah, now that you kind of put one and one together, the fact that, as great as this show was, the fact that the crowd was kind of silent for a majority of it, maybe just goes to show that maybe the market just isn't that well in Hiroshima. And kudos to Stardom for putting on this show, because I don't think there's any of the 825 people, even though as quiet as they were, that went home and said it was a bad show. So maybe this was their chance to get the number up in Hiroshima, maybe come the next round. So we shall see, good sir. We shall see.
We shall indeed. Let's kick into this show then. So on the pre-show, we had a 6-woman tag match. The team of Amisori, Tekla, and Yuna Mizumori defeated the Queen's Quest team of Azumi, Lady C, and Miyu Amasaki in 6 minutes and 32 seconds, with Amisori pinning Lady C with the Blue Thunder Bomb. Matt, what did you think of this?
It was a solid outing. I mean, everybody kind of got their just doing it. Again, you're really seeing Miyu Amasaki and Lady C getting a lot more ring time in these multi-person matches. Obviously, Yuna Mizumori, I'm a huge fan of. Tekla, I'd like to see her maybe more up on the main card. I understand some things got switched around because it was supposed to be FWC versus O2 line, I believe, in the main card opener. But I think FWC, Hazuki and Koguma, I think they came down with some sort of illness. I could be wrong. That's what kind of got reported to me. So things got switched up last second, but really a good opener, good pre-show opener, and nice to see Amisori to get the win over here. But I would like to see more Queen's Quest W's. Maybe that's just me, Rob.
You are quite biased when it comes to Queen's Quest. You're absolutely right. FWC were both taken off the card with illness. I would be amazed if that's not COVID. Because Koguma and Hazuki are together a lot outside of Stardom, and for them both to be ill, it sounds very much like COVID without saying COVID. So obviously, we hope that both women recover and are back on our screens. And it's worth noting as well that on this card, as well as the matches that we got, should have been Hazuki versus Saya Kamatani, which, you know, when you put that with the other matches from the 5-star on this card, that should have been incredible. However, technically, it is a Hazuki win, which is slightly disappointing. We move on to the main card. You can watch, by the way, that 6-woman tag on YouTube. It is still live on Stardom's YouTube channel, so go and check it out if you want. We move to the main card, where we see a tag team match. Maika and Megan Bayne defeating the Club Venus team of Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa in 7 minutes and 41 seconds. Megan Bayne getting the pinfall over Mariah May with the F5. This was a lot of fun, Matt, especially as it was sort of a thrown together tag. Maika and Megan Bayne don't have a tremendous amount of sort of history together, but I thought they worked really well together. I thought Mariah May sold Megan Bayne's offense incredibly well. I thought they despite the fact that Megan Bayne has now taken a pinfall, obviously losing to Tam in that red belt match, she is still built incredibly well, incredibly strongly, and I think it worked in this match. I thought Rose Gold, there was no break. They just went at it as though to say, right, we're opening this pay-per-view, let's give it everything we've got. 7 minutes, let's blow the house down. And honestly, I thought they did an incredible job. My only question, Matt, is why is Megan Bayne's hat so big? Like, I swear it grows every time she's on screen. I swear it wasn't that big when she debuted. I just feel like it grows a couple of centimetres every show. So by the final, I'm expecting it to hit the roof.
Maybe she's feeding it protein or creatine. Maybe after she gets done with her workouts, not only is she refueling her muscles, then maybe she's giving a little bit to the headdress. Maybe that's what's going on. There's my answer. But no, Rose Gold was great here. Mike and Mina Shirakawa have some great chemistry together. We've seen them, in their multi-person matches a handful of times this year, really tear it down. And I liked how Mina was trying to get the advantage on Micah, but she really couldn't until Mariah May would come in. Obviously, they're the more formidable of the tag team. They've been teaming out quite a bit at this year. Obviously, former Goddess of Stardom tag team champions. So I like the psychology of Mina, Mariah May getting the advantage, the first real advantage by using teamwork. Makes sense. It's a tag match. But then, like, the tag team stuff doesn't work on Megan Bayne. Like, it works on Micah, but doesn't work on Megan Bayne, again, who's been built up phenomenally. This entire time she's been in Stardom, they built her up great for her match with Tam, which makes Tam look better, you know, when she got the win and was able to retain the World of Stardom Championship. And then kind of wasn't sure what they're going to do with Megan Bayne since then, but they basically just built her right back up as this dominant monster. So Mina, Mariah May, they go back and forth with more double teams. There's a really cool double team spot that they hit on Micah where Mina hits like the Arisa kick out of the corner. You know, the one where she kind of just springs one leg up on the other corner and then kicks you in the back with the other. And when she does, Micah feeds right into a tornado DDT from Mariah May. I thought that was a really cool double team spot. And again, the only way the double teams get stopped is when this, you know, monster Megan Bayne comes in and just dominates the former tag champs. Ultimately, it leads to the oh, what a rush doomsday device from Megan and Micah, and then leading to Megan Bayne hitting the F5 on Mariah May, the foreign ace. Again, solid match, really good, solid way to start off this pay-per-view. Nobody really held anything back. I had it at 3.5 stars and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I gave it 3.5 as well. The exact same reason. I thought for the 7 minutes they were given and for the fact that it was effectively a throwaway tag, I think all 4 women delivered an entertaining opening match. Before we got into any more matches, we had an absolute glut of announcements, of show announcements. We had the confirmation of Nagoya Golden Fight, which is going to be taking place on the 9th of October. We also had the confirmation of Stardom Halloween Dark Night 2023, which is going to be taking place on the 29th of October at Takikawa Stage Garden. We also had the announcement of the 13th Goddess of Stardom Tag League. I swear, Matt, it only feels like yesterday we were talking about the 12th, but here we are. That is going to be starting on the 15th of October and is going to end on the 12th of November. So a little bit earlier this year for the Tag League. And then finally, we have the first New Blood West show, which is going to be taking place, I believe, in Osaka, with all the prior New Blood shows, I think, have taken place out of Tokyo. So, yeah, a brand new New Blood show, this one called New Blood West, and that is going to be taking place on the 7th of November. So lots and lots of dates for your calendar there, Matt. Clearly, Stardom aren't bothered about the glut of pay-per-views and are just going to keep delivering this content.
Yeah, that's all really good content. You know, there's no way that anybody can deny that. Stardom is they're cranking out the shows and it's all quality content. And kudos to the fine folks over at Stardom World on the non-pay-per-views for lately getting, and we've mentioned this a handful of times the last few weeks, for getting these shows up in about, you know, a 24 to a 36 hour period. I mean, they're cranking out these 5-star shows one after another. You know, it's, again, as soon as it happens, it's pretty much up on the website within about a day and a half for us to enjoy. But I did notice the Goddess of Stardom tournament. It's only, 4 weeks long. It's only about a month long. So I wonder if it's going to be very much like the 5-star, Rob, where it's going to be only a handful of teams. It's not going to be, the mega amount of teams. Maybe it's going to be 4 on blue block, 4 on the red block. So that just really seems like they're great. As soon as that starts, it's going to be all full steam ahead to get to the finals. So it's interesting to see what they're going to be doing with this year's Goddess of Stardom tournament. And considering, in fact, how hot the tag teams are and how great the tag team division is, I'm super excited to see the teams that'll be announced, because they'll probably get announced pretty shortly, because it does start in the middle of October, right?
Middle of October, 15th. So I believe they'll probably announce the teams on the final of the 5-star. So they will probably do the first match. Then when they do their traditional announcement of new shows, I imagine that is probably where we're going to get our teams for the for this show. Or they might potentially do it at the Dream Tag Festival, which I suppose would be more apt with that being a tag team festival. So that's obviously coming up this week. So we might see the teams then. We might be talking about it next week, Matt. Who knows? Let's move on then to Blue Star's block. As the 5-star continues to roll on, Utami Hayashishita moving to 8 points by defeating Momo Watanabe, who stays on 6, in 9 minutes and 26 seconds with the hijack bomb. First thing I want to say is this is the first time that I noticed that the big star on the stage glowed in the colour of the block, and I know it's a really small thing, but I thought that was really cool. Overall, we have waited a long time for this match. They never had that singles match after Momo turned on Queen's Quest. We were never going to get the all-out blowout that, you know, we could have had in the 9 minutes they were given. However, these two are great together. Really, really good. Threw each other around the ring in a very, very entertaining bout.
Yeah, this was really good. You just mentioned it a few seconds ago, my friend. This is their first singles match since Momo turned on Queen's Quest to join Oedo Tai back in the end of 2021. I wish this would have got maybe about a minute and a half to 2 minutes longer, but what we got was absolutely fantastic. What is as good as their World of Stardom Championship match from when Utami was champion? I believe it was the anniversary show a couple of years ago. I remember it was very early in Utami's reign. No, it wasn't as good as that, but I mean, at the same time, a World Championship match should be bigger than a 5-star match because they had the time to tell the story. However, this match was absolutely fantastic. It was hard. You had great wrestling in the beginning, like they're kind of feeling each other out, like just to kind of set the pace, like neither of them wanted to make a mistake. And then once it spilled to the floor, the other members of Oedo Tai do a great job distracting the referee. So Momo would have hit the bat shot. And then that wasn't the worst thing that happened to Utami on the floor, because that B driver she ate on the floor was absolutely disgusting. They get back in the ring and then they just throw bombs for the remainder of, 6.5 minutes of this match. With Utami throwing the forearms and Momo throwing the kicks and the lariats and the shoulder tackles and the Samatos. And then you had the Tequila Sunrise. And then basically Momo countering just about everything that Utami does. Makes sense because, she was kind of her understudy in Queen's Quest, as Momo was the leader for quite a bit of time. Really loved the forearm fest. And then Momo hitting a huge German suplex. And then Momo again slipping out of the shocking Baszler, goes for the punk kick, but Utami catches her punk kick into the torture rack bomb and then quickly follows up the torture rack bomb with the hijack bomb. Again, fantastic match. I would love to see them run this back maybe if Utami does win the World of Stardom Championship at the end of the year. Would love to see these ladies go back, 15, 16 minutes, what have you. But all in all, they could have put this match on as the main event. They really could have. For this card was so stacked that you could have said, okay, right, we're going to give them 12 or 13 minutes and Momo and Utami is going to be the main event of this show. And I don't think anybody would have complained. But this was absolutely fantastic. Momo really sprinkling in a lot of her Queen's Quest work we've noticed in this tournament, which makes me a happy camper. All in all, again, fantastic match, 4.25 stars.
Yeah, I gave it 4. And this is where the tournament, I think, the shorter time limit, the fact that they were able to condense everything that we knew they'd do to each other into a captivating 9-minute window really does pay testament to the chemistry that they have together, which, of course, as you mentioned, they're going to have, having teamed together for so long, former Goddess of Stardom tag champions together. But I feel like Momo's another one, and this seems to happen most years, where she's had a really underrated tournament. She's had really, really under the radar banger of matches. This one with Utami. Her match against Micah was really, really good. Her match against Julia is the only match I've seen from the second. And that's really good. She's having really, really, really good matches. I do wonder where it's going to go, and hopefully she continues on this roll she seems to have found herself on. That bat shot on the outside, she held nothing back. And I know it's a rigged bat. I think it's foam with the metal bar in the middle. that still hurts. And the way she caught Utami right on the point of the shoulder with it. So I imagine that stung like hell, and Utami sold it like it was like she'd been hit by a boat. So yeah, I imagine that stung a little bit. Moving on then to Red Block, we had Tam Nakano moving to 7 points, defeating Starlight Kid, who remains on 4 points in 8 minutes and 28 seconds with the Violet Screwdriver, which does eliminate Starlight Kid from the tournament. The third person eliminated from the tournament so far, behind Hanan and Amisori. Starlight Kid has had a weird year, to be honest, hasn't she? She sort of seemed, I don't want to say directionless, because that disrespects the year that she has had. She hasn't quite reached the level that I thought she would. She hasn't been challenging for, the white belt, the red belt, being in these high-profile main event matches. This, I feel, was a moment where she could remind everyone just how good she was, because her and Tam put on a fantastic match here, and one where you felt like Starlight Kid felt like she had a point to prove. And that moment where Tam kicks out of the Momo latch and you just see Starlight Kid just banging the mat, screaming with all that frustration. Not only does she know that she's got to win every match from this point to stay in the tournament, but, people are starting to look at other people on the roster instead, and that's got to be frustrating. So I really enjoyed that. And then that moment, just that briefest of moments at the end when Tam holds her hand and they just have that look just for a second. And it feels like it's going somewhere, but we don't know where. And I love that. Overall, I thought these two are fantastic wrestlers. Obviously, Tam, the World of Stardom champion, isn't going to be a bad wrestler. Starlight Kid, I have no doubt, a future World of Stardom champion. Fantastic match. Excellent stuff from both women. 4 stars.
Yeah, I'm going to echo your sentiment, partner, that it seems like in the winter, the first quarter of last year, Starlight Kid had that co-main event high-speed championship match with the Zumi, which we saw Zumi capture the high-speed championship. And then we thought, okay, here comes Starlight Kid's ascend. And then she had that fantastic Wonder of Stardom championship match with Saya Kamatani, which, in my opinion, is Starlight Kid's best singles match. And then she goes on to have a fantastic 5-star last year and has that unbelievable match with Mayu on the final night. And then when the brackets were first announced, or the matches were first announced, and we noticed that Mayu and Starlight Kid were against each other on the final night, we kind of figured, that would be one to really kind of circle and kind of determine some sort of points. But the fact that Starlight Kid is eliminated this early in the tournament, we're kind of like, The fact that she ate all those losses, like, okay, well, somebody has to lose. And maybe with Saya Kamatani's, they had to move some stuff around on both Red Stars and Blue Stars, Rob, with the booking. Maybe that's what it was, where they just had Saya just Starlight Kid lose some matches. But I think both of us kind of figured that Starlight Kid would get a win here, and then that would let her either challenge for the Wonder Belt or the World Belt, somewhere in the future, even if she only finishes with 6 or 7 points, give or take. So I was a little shocked with the finish here. Was not shocked at all with the quality of the match, because this was fantastic. And you can see Starlight Kid, she comes out of this like she's very desperate in this match. She's throwing bombs early on Tam. I mean, she goes right after Tam's leg, to try to set up. One, it's taking away a lot of Tam's speed, a lot of her high impact offenses. She does a lot of the suplexes, the Twilight Dream, the Violent Screwdriver, the Tiger Suplex as well. And that not only is the psychology there for Starlight Kid to take away Tam's strength, but one of Starlight Kid's finisher is that Black Tiger leg crusher submission. So early on, we could see Starlight Kid just being aggressive, going after Tam's leg early on. She attempts the Tiger Suplex a couple times, trying to really put her way in, or try to get her match going. They wind up Tam gets out of that. We have a stiff forearm exchange between the two. And then Starlight Kid tries to go back to her high-speed roots, starts using some high-speed offense on Tam, but Tam shuts that down able to catch Starlight Kid. It's a big German suplex. Starlight Kid then starts going to the top rope. She hits that top rope quesadora to let the momentum swing her way. Ultimately, though, Starlight Kid again throwing bombs. She hits the Black Tiger pile driver, Tiger suplex combination. That does a lot of wins for Starlight Kid. Does a lot of opponents in. Tam showing that resilience. That's something we've seen a lot of Tam in the last year plus, that she's able to take these big moves and kick out in order for up to kind of fire back up. Starlight Kid hangs on, hits a second Tiger suplex. Tam and eventually hits a Tiger suplex of her own. I like the part where Tam goes for the violent screwdriver, and Starlight Kid gets out. And when she does, she comes off the ropes and gets the Momo latch. And you just mentioned, about 2 minutes ago, buddy, that you figured that would be the finish. And Tam kicks out at just the very last second. And you're like, oh, I thought that would be the finish. Starlight Kid she's exhausted. She's thrown everything at Tam. Tam's starting to throw everything at her. You could tell that she's so annoyed and so like, what do I do from here? I'm losing all these matches. I've thrown everything at the World of Stardom champion. Nothing can keep Tam down. And she's so frustrated that it takes her off her game plan and it lets Tam hit a whole bunch of spin kicks and violent shootings. And I loved how this violent screwdriver for the finish set up. You see Tam pick her up and she's getting ready to drop her, but then you see Starlight Kid kick her feet a little. So you're thinking Starlight Kid's going to get out of it because that's kind of like this, okay, they still has fight left. And then once her legs start kicking like she's trying to get out of it, Tam comes up on her toes and then drops Starlight Kid right down on her head and gets the 3 count. Just that little wrinkle in the finish added to the match for me because it looked like Starlight Kid was going to once again get out of it. Tam noticed it and said, I'm not going to hang on any longer. I'm just going to drop Starlight Kid right on her head and finish this off. This was an incredible match between the two. I agree with you that this is Starlight Kid's best match of the tournament. I had it at 4.5 stars.
I feel like this could have been the touch paper to Starlight Kid's year. When you consider, obviously, she's got that Mayu Iwatani match on the final night. And spoilers for the match that we're going to be talking about in a moment, Mayu Iwatani is also eliminated now. It does feel like there could have been more emphasis put on that. And I understand that obviously Stardom have had to move stuff around in regard to Saya Kamitani's injury, if it was the case that Saya Kamitani was pegged for winning it. But I feel like if Starlight Kid had won here, she doesn't even need to carry on winning. Just a win here against the champion. She's proved she can do it on the main stage, as you mentioned, that phenomenal singles match against Saya Kamitani. But nevertheless, maybe that Mayu match is going to be the touch paper that Starlight Kid needs heading into the final quarter of this year, because it does feel a little bit like she's been treading water. Not in her matches. In her matches, she's given 110% and repeatedly puts on fantastic matches. Her in-ring ability has never, ever been in question. But it does feel a little bit like she's sort of not going anywhere, really, in terms of the card, which is a shame. We then move on to Mayu Iwatani versus Syuri, which many people are touting, as I mentioned before, to be the match of the tournament so far. Syuri moving to 7 points, defeating Mayu Iwatani, who stays on 7 in 12 minutes and 30 seconds with the Rouen, and thus eliminating the icon of Stardom from the tournament. These two just have that magic, don't they? I love watching Syuri pummel Mayu Iwatani and Mayu just repeatedly getting back up and repeatedly throwing bombs of her own, only for Syuri to just knock her down and rinse and repeat. It never gets tiresome. And then you throw in bits like Syuri locking in that white tiger and literally spinning Mayu around by her knee ligaments before locking it in again. And you can see the pain in Mayu's face as she grabs desperately for the bottom rope. It is beautiful. That flash pin from the the Poison Rana, where you just think, oh my God, she's going to do it. She's going to do it. And then Syuri kicks out. or everything these two women did was beautifully and flawlessly executed, from the kicks to the escalation of the strikes to the escalation in the pace of the match to the brutality to that, like I mentioned, that white tiger, which was my favorite moment of the match. It both sold Mayu as the babyface, and it also, just in case anyone needed it, puts Fury over even more as that devastating badass. Overall, a thoroughly breathless 12 minutes of wrestling. Incredible match. I gave it 4.5 stars. If not the match of the tournament, I would argue it is certainly top 3.
Yeah, it currently sits as my number 3 with Shuri and Suzu number 1, Julia and Ano as number 2, and this is my current number 3, just at the top of my head. If I went back and look at the list, then maybe reshuffled. But Shuri and Suzu is definitely my number 1 from night 1. But I liked how you have to take a look, and obviously this tournament's not over. Shuri still has a handful of matches left, but this is on pace with their 2021 5-star. I mean, it really, really is, which is like frightening to say, because that 5-star was an all-time performance, and this is like neck and neck with it, which is what Shuri's been able to do again with this match with Mayu, the Natsupoi match, the Suzuki match, and again, we still have more to come. I believe this weekend of shows, I think she was supposed to wrestle Saya Kamatani. I was just looking at the card this week, and I'm like, can you just imagine? Because that's the match I was looking forward to the most, obviously, besides injury. Shuri will go up to 9 points this weekend without a wrestled because of the forfeit. But regardless, yeah, this was fantastic. They started out with some really great technical wrestling to start, just to kind of ease the crowd in a little bit here. But you know it wasn't going to take long before this went off the rails in the best way possible. And it goes off the rails pretty early as Mayu gets the advantage. Shuri tries to bail out. Mayu, like a minute and a half in the match, goes for that crazy suicide dive. Shuri moves out of the way, and Mayu takes it every second that was on that side of the ring, just wipes them out like a bowling ball, strike. Mayu then gets the advantage. She tries for a German dragon suplex on the floor. Shuri hits a tornado DDT. Mayu's able to land this brutal super kick on the way back up, and then she hits a German suplex on the floor. And like 4 minutes in, they tease a double count out. Like they get to like 18 or 19. I'm like, if this is a double count out at like 4 minutes in, I'm fine with it because this is fantastic. Again, then they wind up getting back in the ring and they just throw bombs. Obviously, Shuri is one of the best strikers in all of wrestling. Mayu, we talk about it all the time. She's such an underrated striker just because you're in the same company as a Maika, a Shuri, a Utami, a Momo Watanabe. But Mayu can hang in there with the best of them. So they're throwing some heavy forearms back and forth, and Shuri's able to cut Mayu off with those Muay Thai style knees. Eventually, Mayu does what Mayu does best. She eats a lot of damage to get one move in. She's eating kicks and knees back and forth just to be able to catch one of those striking blows from Shuri, and she hits the dragon screw leg whip. Really starts to target Shuri's knee. Shuri's fully aware, so she has to switch up her game plan. Eventually, though, Shuri hits a big German suplex, head kick, and then you mentioned before, she locks in the stretch muffler, the white tiger, and then changes wrist control on it. So she has Shuri at a higher angle, she has Mayu at a higher angle. And then she must have been watching her Best of Lady C tapes, Rob, because then she does the giant swing while poor Mayu's locked in the white tiger. And of course, to the shock of no one, if you've seen Mayu matches before, you know that her selling on this is going to be on point. And it sure was. I mean, it looked like poor Mayu was just hanging on by a thread. Shuri tries to go for the killing blow, tries to go for the Vermilion World. But yeah, that beautiful Poison Rana almost puts her down. Mayu's able to dragon suplex and moonsault combination. Eventually, though, Shuri comes back with the Ruin, which was the move that she won the 2020 tournament with. Eventually hits a running knee, KO kick, and the Vermilion World. Yeah, this is just unbelievable. These two just cannot miss. Love this pairing. We talked all the time. We talked about it a handful of times that Shuri's title defense at last year's World Climax against Mayu. It's a matchup that some people loved and some people thought it was under the radar. Me and you absolutely loved it for a zillion different reasons, and a zillion different reasons why we loved it here. Again, this is my number 3 match of the tournament thus far. I had it at 4 3/4 stars, and definitely go out of your way to see this match.
You mentioned Suri's tournament, and you think back to the matches she's had. She had the match with Suzu Suzuki, which was great. She had the match with Mayu that was great. Don't forget her match with Natsupoi, that time limit draw. And then she had that match with Natsuka Tora, which was also very, very good. So for someone who, again, not to the same level as Starlight Kid, but someone who is sort of just there doing her thing, not in any title pictures, so to speak, or anything like that. It's just a stark reminder of when given the tap, Suri is one of the most capable wrestlers on that entire damn roster. And she is carving through that red block. And, you know, you'd be stupid to think that she's not going to be in the mix come the 30th of September for that red block. Because red block, honestly, I've got no idea who is going to win that block, because it could be one of 4-5 different women, legitimately. Not just because I like them, but legitimately. And I'll go through the blocks as they stand at the moment, and you'll see what I mean. I am incredibly intrigued by this red block. Before we move on, however, before we move on oh my God, just shut up, Rob. Let's carry on. I don't know what I was going to say then. Let's move on to the high-speed title match then. Saki Kashima defending against Momo Kogo, gained the win with the Kish Kasai in 4 minutes and 43 seconds. It is what it is. You know, it's what we expected it to be. Saki is effortlessly funny, which is always great. Momo Kogo, we're getting a little bit of character development from Momo, which is really good. Determined to show everyone the wrestler that she can be, you know, not engaging with Saki, not engaging with the handshake initially, and then when she does, she goes for a pinfall. So she's learning, and we're seeing that sort of harder-edged side of Momo Kogo, which is good. Saki, I always enjoy Saki when she refuses to fight, when she's on the defensive, and then the moment there's an opening, she's right in there with the boot. Saki's ace. But ultimately, you know, no disrespect to either woman, but if you're pressed for time, this is probably the match you can cut off the show, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, you know what you're going to get. You're not getting, again, Saki Kashima is a different wrestler than a high-speed wrestler than a Natsupoi, than an Azumi, than a Starlight Kid. You know, the three wrestlers that have been holding this division up for the better part of 3 years. And I think the heir apparent, I think we all agree, is going to be May Sierra. Now, obviously, we'll get into that in a moment. You're going to get these shorter matches, kind of what the high-speed championship was back in, you know, from 2017, 18, and 19 as well, but you're getting Saki Kashima's comedy. Not only that, but you're getting her fighting from behind. We saw it in the Kagame match, and we saw it here. I thought Momo Kogo was awesome here. She came out here with something to prove. She came out of here, you know, as soon as the bell rang, she went right for it. I mean, she was hitting the 619, she hit the 619 DDT, springboard drop kick, and she started some new arm work. Which we've seen a little bit sprinkled here and there in the multi-person tag matches kind of leading up to this. So we've seen a little bit different, maybe more aggressive Momo Kogo. Stardom is a wrestling company that has a lot of wrestlers that do different styles of submissions. And to see Momo Kogo, especially if we're seeing some character development that we saw at the end of this match, if she's going to be adding in some more submissions, I am all for it. So I'm all about, you know, Stardom elevating the lower tier card wrestlers, you know, Momo Kogo, Saida, you know, Ahina, Arena, Ahan, that we're seeing in the tournament as well. But Momo Kogo here looking super aggressive towards the end. Ultimately, though, it's the most dangerous move, Rob, in all of wrestling that does Momo Kogo in the Kishi Kasai. But yeah, and we're seeing maybe more of a serious Saki Kashima because it looks like she's getting ready to face her fears in one May Sierra as she hauls her out at the end of this match. Overall, though, I thought it was a solid outing. Again, I thought Momo looked great here. I had it at 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I gave it 3. It was fine. It was very inoffensive, but ultimately, it's probably one we're not going to look back on come the end of the year. That cannot be said for this following match, the Goddesses of Stardom Championship match with the champions Cosmic Angels, Natsupoi and Sione Anu. The champions defeating Mei Seira and Suzu Suzuki, with Saori Anou pinning Mei Seira with the Tom Tendre in 13 minutes and 43. Thank you to friend of the show, Steve, and patron for Steve. Yeah, Steve. I was like, who gave me that? Who gave me a pronunciation guide for that? And I've probably still got it wrong. And I will get back to you on Patreon, by the way, Steve. I haven't had time. But yes, Tom Tendre. So they don't laugh at my friend's pronunciation.
You even sound like the Google Translate thing that he said, like the same pitch and everything. So bravo to you, sir.
I've been practicing that all day. I went on my run today and I was just like, Tom Tendre, Tom Tendre, Tom Tendre.
Your neighborhood thought you were nuts. They were getting ready to call the people in the white coats, like, get this guy out of here.
What is he on about? I mean, this match is tremendous. We knew it was going to be good, but this was fantastic. Match of the show, without a shadow of a doubt. Wonderful to see the spotlight on Mei Seira. And what's even better for me is, considering Mei Seira and Suzu Suzuki were thrown together as a team just on the chance that they were both freelancers and don't have a unit yet, they've grown into one of the most endearing partnerships on the Stardom roster, and I do love that. I do love the fact that they have absolutely nothing in common. If anything, Suzu Suzuki looks like a mum taking her over-hyper daughter to a shopping mall, and just that seems to be the vibe, and it just works. And I think that's really, really important, the dynamic between these two. And then you put the dynamic of Natsupoi and Saori Anou as well on top of that. Fantastic. The sequences are incredible. The double team that leads to the finish, beautiful. Honestly, this is 13 minutes of your time. If you're going to watch a match from this show, and watch all of it, but if you're going to watch this match, because this is legitimately one of the Stardom tag matches of the year. A fantastic match from all four women, Matt.
Well, I knew it was going to be good because all four of these are great, and they're great singles wrestlers and they're great tag wrestlers. But you know it's going to a next level when Suzu and Mei Seira are doing shots before they even come to the ring. When they get to the top of the entrance ramp, I was like, I don't know if those are 5-star energy. I don't know if they're tequila. I don't know if they're part of Micah's beer. Oh, by the way, I found a website where you can buy Micah's beer. I don't know if they can ship it over, Rob. Another story for another day. I did my homework and I found it, so I'm trying my best. Regardless, you're doing shots before you're coming into the ring. Oh boy, right? Like, here we go. And it's so funny, like Suzu, she absolutely loved it. Mei Seira was like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? But with Mei and Natsupoi starting, you knew you're going to get like a mini high-speed match. And then Suzu cuts off Natsupoi, and we get mini heat on Natsupoi. Sorry, I know. Comes in, makes the save, and then we get, again, I mentioned in Rose Gold, with the Rose Gold teamwork, these are your tag champs. They get the advantage by doing tag team wrestling, and that's how they get the advantage back. Eventually, we get Suzu and Saori in like a mini singles match, and oh boy, they just beat the crap out of each other. Like, Suzu's not taking any of Saori's stuff, not at all, and they wind up just dropping each other back and forth with German suplexes. And then Suzu hits a tequila shot, but she can't follow up because of the damage done to her neck and back from all those ridiculous German suplexes that she's taken from the tag champs. And I really, really like that atmosphere where Suzu's been like this buzzsaw, pretty much since she's been in Stardom. Don't get me wrong, she sells and she shows weakness, but it's like she hits the big tequila shot, which is basically her ramping up to go to the finish, which is usually the locomotion German suplexes. But at this point, she can't follow up because the tag champs have really done a fantastic job on the double team work to Suzu. I thought that was great. Like you mentioned it at the start of the show, I thought Mei Seira was the MVP of this match. And considering the fact that, Suzu is one of the best wrestlers in this company, and Natsupoi and Saori Anou are on a completely another level, especially Natsupoi these last 4 or 5 months. I mean, in my opinion, she's the Stardom Wrestler of the Year. We're 8 months in. We just closed out August. I think she's the Stardom Wrestler of the Year, both singles and tags. It's unbelievable what Natsupoi has been doing. And then May and Suzu, they hit this version of total elimination. Remember from the ECW days, the eliminators where one person would go high, one person would go low. So they did this kick combination with May and Suzu. It reminded me of the eliminators of total elimination. I thought that was really cool. Sori comes in. She hits what I call the perfect plex for a 2 count. Everybody hits a top rope something into the ring. I thought that's really cool. You're amping up your finish. Everybody's going to the top rope, to ascend the drama in this match, which I thought was really good. I liked Suzu and May. They've been hitting that half and half suplex lung blower combination where Suzu gets you up for it's almost a half dragon, half German, and then May comes over with comes off the ropes with the lung blower. But this one they hit from the top rope. They haven't done that before. Makes sense. This is their biggest tag match that they've ever had. It's against the tag champs. So I thought that was really cool. Then there was once, and then they hit that on Sayori. And then this is where the camera work was great. And the drama went up for me, completely different level. Because then after that, May hits the rolling star on Sayori. And where the camera work was right on the shoulders. So you don't see Natsupoi break up the fall until right when it happened. So I thought that was genius camera work from the fine folks over at Stardom, because I thought, this is the finish. They hit their big tag move. May Sarah hits her kind of pretty much it's her singles finisher, and Natsupoi is nowhere to be found. So I think Suzu has her isolated, and I think this is the finish of the match, and we're going to have new tag champs. But Natsupoi comes in the very last second to break up the fall. And then it comes back again with Sorinu hits she does that crazy backslide. I call it the backslide from heaven. She hits it on May Sarah. And once again, the camera work is just right on the two legal wrestlers in the ring. And I think, okay, this is the finish. And then you don't see Suzu until the very last second break up the pinfall. It made a phenomenal match even better for me because I really bit on those two falsies. And I love how Natsupoi and Sayori, how pretty much their tag finisher, we saw it when they beat Rose Gold for the belts, is it's basically a teamwork burial gift and Tom's Tundra. I don't know if I'm saying as good as you, Rob, or worse, or just as good. Regardless, I love how Tom Tundra. I love it how they hit, because it's basically almost the same move. It's like a flipping neck breaker, but they do it so seamlessly at the same time. And then they hit it on May Sarah. Natsupoi quickly makes sure Suzu Suzuki's nowhere to be found. She takes her out or holds her out in order for Sori Anu to hit the Tom's Tundra for the 3 count. I told you as soon as this match was over, as soon as the show was over, this is one of my all-time favorite Stardom tag matches. If this is your first time on the show, welcome. We know we have new listeners all the time. If you have been with us for a while, you know when it comes to great Stardom tag matches, the pinnacle, the standard is always Thunder Rock versus Meiko Satomura and Kairi. But I think this is just right under it. This probably ranks right up there with Stardom X Stardom last year with Meltier versus FWC. This might be my second favorite Goddess of Stardom tag match of all time. It had everything. You had the high speed stuff in the beginning. You had the great double team work from both teams, especially from the tag champs. You had the violence, you had the suplexes, you had the selling, you had the emotion, the up and down. You had them going off the top rope to show basically show the how important this match was. The fact that everybody's now taking risks and chances to get the advantage back as you're building towards the finish. But ultimately, what does in the challengers is the fantastic teamwork from two wrestlers that tried to kill each other about 2 months ago in a strap match, Rob, that basically does in the challengers and gets the V1 for the Cosmic Angels team. Again, this is one of the best tag matches I've seen all year. This is one of my favorite tag matches I've ever seen. To me, this is the perfect 5 stars.
Wow. Very, very high praise indeed from you. There's moments of this match where you have got your breath taken away. That like May Sarah just jumping off the back of Sioriano as she's going for the tag and drop kicking Natsupoi from the apron. Just little things like that just make this match fun to watch. And because again, 13 minutes, there's no let up at all. And Suzu Suzuki is having none of Natsupoi. Like, there's about 3 times in this match where Natsupoi tries to enter the fray and is just floored with a forearm from Suzu Suzuki. And because it's Natsupoi, she sells it beautifully, just crumples in a heap. tremendous stuff. The next challenges come out. The next challenges are going to be Utami Hayashishita and Azumi, Matt. Now, obviously, they have got big shoes to fill. Because this match, as we've both said, fantastic. I gave it 4.5. I think this match could top it because, geez Louise, that is a fantastic matchup.
No disrespect. Obviously, maybe my Queen's Quest bias may come out here. No disrespect to Suzu and Meisera, but Utami and Azumi, in my opinion, are better wrestlers. Not by much, but Utami and Azumi are two of the best wrestlers in the world, regardless of promotion, country, gender, the whole nine. And they've been teaming more. Now, obviously, the go-to team in Queen's Quest is Utami and Saya Kamatani. Now I wonder if this match was supposed to be Aphrodite versus, can you imagine, versus Poi and Sayori? Oh, geez. But we've seen some really good stuff with Utami and Azumi in tags, in 6 persons, in 8 persons as well. Obviously, they have great chemistry. Only one of these two teams was able to carry the other on their shoulders during the post-match promo, and it wasn't the champions, it was the challengers. And so, yeah, this is good. I mean, they had Natsupoi and Sayori. They had a great match with Rose Gold where they won the belts. This match, in my opinion, was even better. And I would not be shocked if the match with Queen's Quest coming up, I believe it's October 9th. I think it's like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I think it's like in the middle of the week. That October 9th show, that big show coming up the first week of October is crazy loaded. I mean, that card is, from what's announced, is crazy loaded. And man, I'm really looking forward to this one. You know, I'm a tag team person, and when tag wrestling's done good, it's great. We know that Poi and Sayori Ano can do fantastic tag team work based on these two matches. And, you know, Azumi and Utami can absolutely bring it. So I'm super thrilled about the match. I'm super thrilled that they came in with their fantastic Queen's Quest jerseys, which I was finally able to secure one this morning. However, Rob, when I went back to check on my order, the size wasn't listed. So I did send them the email to say, please do not send me a small or medium because I will not fit in it. But anywho, regardless, I am super, super excited. Again, this match was fantastic. If you've seen it, go and watch it again. If you have not seen it, what are you doing? By the time you listen to this, it should be up on Stardom World if you did not buy the pay-per-view. And if you do not have Stardom World, folks, it's like less than $8 a month. What are you doing? This match alone is well worth your $8 a month. But yeah, I'm super excited to see the run that they do with these Goddess belts. And it kind of begs, and I'm going to throw to you on this one, partner. We mentioned before the Goddess of Stardom tournament is coming up. Usually you would have your tag champs going in, which I'm assuming is going to be Poi and Sayori. You usually have them in as your tag team. But do you not break up, but do you not have Meltier as a team going in? I mean, if you ask me, it's heads you win, tails you win. But if you're booking this Goddess tournament, what do? Do you have Meltier, who's kind of like your big star tag team, or do you have Poi and Sayori, your tag champs, in the tournament?
I'm sure they've done it before, where they've split up the tag champs. And I seem to think, was it Mayu? Was she teaming with someone different?
Saki, maybe? Was it the tournament Saki with the tag champs?
Maybe. Again, without looking into it in detail, I couldn't tell you, but I don't think it's a massive issue. Because we don't even know if Sayori's going to be a part of this. She may be recording this Sakiban New York show, so she might not even be in the tournament. But I'd be surprised if Meltier aren't thing. Although, to be fair, you have got Yuna Mizumori in there as well, so she will need a partner. And I imagine, unfortunately for Yuna, she'll probably be the pin eater for someone. But it's worth noting as well, we're talking about the tag league. I don't know the status of Saya Kamatani heading into this tournament. So that potentially puts Aphrodite on the back burner. Do we see Utami and Azumi team up rather than O2 line? Or do we get O2 line and Utami and Lady C, for example? Tag league tends to be one of those things where you think, oh, they'll do the strongest teams, and they never do. they never do. You'll get Aphrodite and things like that, but then you'll get some really odd pairings, but odd pairings that work. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Stardom managed to navigate their way out of that. To echo what you said, I fully expect Azumi and Utami versus Poi and Ano to be 4.5 star minimum. Not that I'm trying to jinx it, not that I'm trying to put high expectations on it, but I expect that and no less. Otherwise, I will do very little. We move on then to the semi-main.
Real quick, Rob. If I was booking Goddess a Stardom tournament, people ask me what would I do. So here's what I would do. Maybe just because I'm just a huge fan of Cosmic Angels, I would put Meltier in one block and Natsupoi and Ano in another. That's what I would do. That's of both worlds, sir.
So you would have Natsupoi wrestling in both blocks.
Absolutely. She's the Stardom Wrestler of the Year. And then what a final would it be for the tag champs to take on Meltier in the finals?
I would love to see Natsupoi, because I reckon she would actually do a really good job of doing that as well. Like, she'd probably end up like with a shirt on, and she'd take the shirt off when she's on one team, put the shirt back on when she's on one team. You see her sprinting across the ring to be the hot tag. It would be great. I don't see it happening, unfortunately, but that would be amazing. Maybe that should be a what if.
We just booked another what if. I think we have 14 of them in the bank.
I was just going to say Jesus. We move on then to our semi-main, which is the Wonder of Stardom Championship match. The champion Mirai making her first successful title defense, defeating fellow God's Eye member Konami in 12 minutes and 52 seconds with a brutal lariat. Now, there's a couple of things about this match that I know people are a little bit iffy with. I personally, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I really like this match. Love the work Konami did on the arm of Mirai. Can we just talk about how good Konami looked as she entered the fray, by the way? She looked like a badass. The jacket, the contacts, and then when she put the gum shield in, I was like, I genuinely fear for Mirai's safety here. Absolutely brilliant. The work she did on Mirai's arm, fantastic. I thought Mirai sold it really, really well. And I know people will say, "Oh, well, she won with back-to-back lariats with a bad arm." Yes, she did. But rather than just defaulting to the adrenaline sort of argument that we constantly have in terms of forgetting to sell, if you look at the way she hits it, she's putting herself through pain in order to win. And there was moments where she was pinning after the move where she couldn't hook with a bad arm, and she had to use both arms to hook the leg and things like that. And it was those subtle things that made this a really good sell job from Mirai. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect, but I thought she did a very, very, very good job. My only issue with this match, aside from that suplex where, oh my God, how did Konami get up, is the ending came out of nowhere. Like, Konami, this match goes 12 minutes and 52 seconds. Like, no time at all. Konami is in her hometown of Hiroshima and beats Mirai pillar to post for 10 minutes of this near 13-minute match. Mirai picks her up, powerbomb, 2 lariats, victory. It came a little bit out of nowhere. Now, it's a minor complaint, but that's my only complaint about the match. Otherwise, I thought both women did tremendously well. I think Konami's had 2 other singles matches since her semi-retirement in December, and one of those was a 4-minute throwaway match against Waka Tsukiyama, who, bless her, is not going to be as hard-hitting as Mirai in a Wonder of Stardom title match. Overall, I thought this was a really, really solid entry into the Wonder of Stardom canon. Don't get me wrong, Konami did say that if she won the Wonder of Stardom title, she would go full-time. So Mirai winning here and not giving us Konami full-time perhaps makes her the biggest heel in Stardom. But overall, I thought both women did a tremendous job. Konami looked like a savage badass, especially the fact that she kept laughing at Mirai every time Mirai tried to power up out of one of the moves. Oh my God, that flying cross arm breaker off the apron. Jesus wept. What a horrible bump that must have been to take. But overall, really, really good match. I gave it 4 stars. Just a shame about that suplex with Konami. I don't know what happened. I don't know whether Konami under-rotated or if Mirai didn't quite have enough of it to get her up and over and Konami enough time to rotate. But either way, she hit the mat face first, and I feared the worst, I must admit. But thankfully, she was able to get up and finish the match. Overall, though, really decent match, Matt.
Yeah, a lot of times on those suplexes, it could just be a timing thing. And again, that's why we need to appreciate everything that any wrestler does, whether it's in Stardom, the Independents, WWE, AEW, so on and so forth. It's something is just off a little bit of a time, and it's both wrestlers working together. If Mirai was just off a half a second or Konami's off just a half a second, it could end in disaster. And thank God, obviously it looked disaster. Thank God Konami was okay. I attribute that to all the neck bridges that Konami probably does during all the Brazilian jiu-jitsu that she does. So, God bless her that she was okay. But yeah, man, I agree with you. Konami, I thought the way this was laid out with Konami just to really take 75-80% of the match goes to show 3 things. Number one, just Konami is back if she wants to be. Konami is back. The fact that she was able to take the 2-time Cinderella champion, the former Goddess of Stardom champion, the current Wonder of Stardom champion, to task in 75-80% of this match, and also builds up Mirai, her selling. We don't get to see Mirai really on the back burner of selling so much. So it's a different wrinkle in Mirai. It's something that can help her out in the long run on these Wonder of Stardom championships. I think it's one of the reasons why we love Saya Kamitani's run so much, is because she's always on the back end having to come back on the later part of the matches, and it really just built the drama to these matches, because these are going to be main event matches or co-main event matches, because the Wonder of Stardom championship is a big deal, and Stardom's done a great job since its inception of building up that belt. And then it just goes to show Mirai just the fact that, some people were complaining that the finish kind of came out of nowhere and that she used her bad arm. Look, if you've been watching Mirai matches, since she's been in Stardom, she loves throwing those lariats. She's added the leaping lariat as one of her finishing moves to go with the double wrist lock, the Mirror Mirai, and the Mirror Mirai shock. But at the same time, it's like, okay, my arm hurts. However, this is my main thing to go to. And if I have to, kind of upset the pain or kind of fight through the pain in order to throw this, like, I'll worry about my arm tomorrow. What I'm worried about is right now getting the win and walking out of here with a Wonder of Stardom championship, because that's what the belt means to me and means to the company. I like that. And if it wasn't a championship match, I could kind of see, but for the fact that Mirai was putting her arm in danger in order to get the win, I like that. And I don't mind the finish coming out of nowhere here, because it was a heck of a lariat to end it. If I'm fighting Mike Tyson,
and it was.
If I'm fighting Mike Tyson, for example, God bless me, and I'm kind of picking him apart a little, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling confident. All of a sudden he lands one uppercut. They're not going to say, well, Matt was beating up Mike Tyson for 5 or 6 minutes. Tyson only landed one blow. But goddamn, that's a damn good blow. And that's basically what this was. We're looking at this as a shoot. We're looking at it as if it's 100% real. And to me, I felt real in that moment when she hit her with the lariat. And I'm like, I hope that's the finish, because she really just came from nowhere to blitz her with those last 2 lariats, especially that final one. Holy geez. And Konami wasn't holding anything back either. Some of those kicks were absolutely brutal. And I actually went back and watched this match, because when I watched it live when it happened, I was feeling a little bit under the weather. And I attributed that to the fact that college football started the day before, and I indulged myself, Rob Goodwin, in a whole bunch of different pumpkin beers. But regardless, so I went back and watched this about 24 hours after the match happened, and I noticed this the second time around, but didn't notice the first time. Konami does the Arisa 1859 kick from the top rope. Did you pick up on that?
She does. I did notice that, yes.
I don't think she's ever done that before. Anyway, I don't think I've ever seen any other wrestler do that before, other than Arisa. So anytime you get a nod to one Arisa Hoshinki, we mentioned it, a handful of times in the last year or so, that Mina has been adopting a lot of Arisa strikes in a great way too. The fact that she's doing it, and she's doing it in a great way, in the psychology and the build, I'm all for it. But Konami in the 1859, if she comes back full-time or semi-full-time and she puts that in her arsenal, I'm all for it, because Konami's fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you. I had this at 4 stars as well. A really good way to set Mirai's championship reign in motion. And then we get all of God's Eye at the end. Suri comes in, makes sure everybody's united. And then she makes a challenge for a UWFI style match. And who comes out to challenge? One, Mina Shirakawa.
You have no idea how much I wish it had been Fukigen Death.
Oh, how dare you, sir? How dare
Can you imagine a UWF match? Fukigen Death versus Syuri. No, of course, Mina Shirakawa came out. In the building, of course, where she was injured last year against Saya Kamatani. So a little bit of, not revenge, but a little bit of unfinished business for Mina. That has been made official for the Nagoya show as well, which already, with 4 matches announced, is a stacked card. In fact, we've gone through all of the matches that will be spoilers, so the card so far for Nagoya Golden Fight 2023 on October 9th, which is a Monday, by the way, Matt, we have got the World of Stardom Championship, Tam Nakano versus Natsuko Tora. The Goddess of Stardom, Saori Ano and Natsupoi versus Utami and Azumi. High Speed, Saki Kashima versus Meisera. And UWF Rules, Syuri versus Mina Shirakawa. I'm excited for this show. I think if you can, I don't know, there's an Artist of Stardom Championship defense, maybe. I haven't seen Mei Sakurai in a while. I don't know if she's injured. But I think that would be that'd be a tasty card. Let's move on. Oh no, actually, I need to say this before we move on. Did you see the shirt that Syuri was wearing, Matt?
No, I didn't. I did make mention that Sherry, her fashion style is completely different from her wrestling style. And I'm not one who's very fashionable. I'm married to somebody who's very fashionable. So by that, I mean, Sherry's a phenomenal wrestler. Her fashion style outside of the ring is a little bit different. I do like her new gear for this show, by the way. But no, what did the shirt say, or what was it?
Oh my God. So, ordinarily, when you are part of a faction, you'll have your faction logo on your shirt. Or
free advertisement.
Absolutely. Or, you know, if you haven't got a logo, the word mark or whatever. Syuri had got God's Eye on her shirt, but she had got it in the smallest font you've ever seen, right in the middle of a chest, and it was in Comic Sans. And it looked like the cheapest, quickest shirt you've ever seen. I implore every single one of you to go and watch the exchange between Mina Shirakawa and Syuri, and you can see Mina's shirt with the big Club Venus logo, and Syuri's, which she might as well have just written God's Eye on a t-shirt in biro. It's, honestly, I was looking at it for ages just going, that's in Comic Sans. I could have designed that shirt on Microsoft Word. It proper got to me, to the point where I had to rewatch the exchange between Mina and Syuri to actually understand what was going on, because I was so taken aback at Syuri's shirt. Excellent trousers, though. I will say that. I was jealous of the trousers. We move on to the main event. Now, I mentioned, Matt Turner, at the top of the show that I disagreed with you on something, and this doesn't happen very often, apart from on most things Tam Nakano. But I was not a huge fan of this match, and I wasn't a huge fan for a couple of reasons. I'm talking about the New Japan Strong Women's title match. Julia, the champion, defeating Risa Sera for her third title defense in 17 minutes and 37 seconds with the Northern Lights bomb. Now, first of all, this shouldn't have been the main event. And I think that a lot of people who watch this show agree that this should not have been the main event. Even if it's only for something as sentimental as it being Konami's hometown. I loved the fact that Julia, on Hana Kimura's birthday, and that's worth noting, September 3rd, Hana Kimura's birthday, rest in peace, Hana, used the Tiger Lily. I think that's beautiful. A beautiful little callback to Julia's defeat of Konami. Julia and Risa Sera had no chemistry whatsoever. there was no heat whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, there was moments. Risa Sera hitting that air raid crash off the apron through the table. Brutal move. Some of the power bombs, really impactful. But there didn't seem to be any heat between the two at all, to the point where there's a moment where I think Risa Sera botches a suplex. And I know you don't like that word, Matt, but for the sake of this argument, botches a suplex. And from that point, Julia, who is ordinarily so expressive and passionate in her matches, she was done with this match. And for a good 5 minutes at the end of this match, she had a face like thunder. Now, I don't know if there is legitimate heat between her and Risa Sera, like there is between her and Mai Yukihi, or if there is the history between her and Risa Sera that there is between her and Suzu Suzuki. There just didn't feel like anything here. It felt very much like oil and water, to the point where they tried several things that just did not work. And, even the Tiger Lily, the package pile driver goes wrong, and you can see the expression on Julia's face. They mess up a glorious driver, which is a move that Julia hits regularly. And it felt like something was off. Timing was off. And overall, I felt like, considering what this could have been, and considering, the caliber of matches that Julia has put on for the Strong Women's Championship, this fell short of expectations, and for me was the match that really disappointed on this show. What about you, Matt? Have I said something that's out of turn there, or what are your opinions?
No, obviously you're entitled to your own opinion, and I've seen a lot of people on social media say that they liked it, but they didn't love it. They thought it would be better. I see your point. I liked how they're kind of feeling each other out, and this is going to get ugly fast. And what I mean by that is, obviously, Julie, in these big championship matches, she gets very violent. She is the dangerous queen, and obviously Risa Sera coming over, she's a great wrestler, but she's known, mostly for her death match. And you can tell by looking at her back, she's all scarred up. So this was going to get out of control fast. And it did. She hits the air raid crowd. Julia tries to go for the pile driver through the table. Risa is able to counter. They go back and forth. They brawl on the apron. Risa hits the air raid crash to the table. And I like how Risa Sera understands the moment and realizes, okay, in order for me to win this match and take that belt home with me, I got to start throwing bombs. So Risa hits the double knees off the top rope. She hits the double knees in the corner. She hits the sit out DVD. She's chaining her big moves back to back to back, really taking advantage of the big table bump. So I like the psychology there. But, Julia takes a lot to take her down. Julia's able to come back. She's able to, they have a brawl on the top rope, which obviously that Julia is going to win the better of that. It's going to set up for top rope butterfly suplex. That's absolutely brilliant. And she sets that up with a very violent headbutt, which I thought that was something. We knew that was coming. The two of them go back and forth with strikes. It did get very violent. And then you do see some missed timing, very much like Konami and Mirai. Missed timing on the Glorious Driver, missed timing on the package pile driver, part of the Tiger Lily. So I see everyone's point there. However, to me, it might have added to the match a little. I mean, this wasn't smooth. And it wasn't supposed to be a smooth perfection match like we saw in the Goddess tag match, where everything flowed really well. It was beautiful. It was beautifully violent. The psychology was there, where you literally can take a look at that. Like, obviously that wasn't supposed to happen. At least I don't think it was. But you can make an argument where we're saying, well, maybe somebody's beat up, they couldn't do it, or they try to block it. Like, if I was on commentary, that's how I would have had that. I would have said, Julia's all beaten up. Maybe she couldn't hook it in right, or Risa Sera's desperate to get out of the Glorious Driver. On commentary, that's how I would have taken it, and I would have taken something bad and added to it to make it add more to the match. Because, again, this isn't a finesse match. We knew it wasn't going to be. So with those two things, but you can kind of see Julia was getting a little frustrated. Maybe Julia didn't want to. She could maybe sold it a little bit better in the face. I can kind of see that there. But ultimately, she's able to put everything together, and being the pro that she is in order to hit the package pile driver and then the Northern Lights bomb, chain them back to back for the finish. I thought this was great. I understand and I thought too, going into this show, that the main event was going to be for the Wonder of Stardom Championship with Mirai and Konami. Obviously, that's a belt that they hold very into high standards. I've mentioned before, but I can understand why they put this match on last, because Julia's a big star. And they really, really, on a show that, again, I mentioned an hour ago, you could have put Momo and Utami as the main event, a 5-star match. I don't think anybody would have batted an eye. You could have put the tag match on last. Nothing followed it. No disrespect to the last 2 matches. You could put Shuri and Mayu on as the main event. So you really could have had 5 or 6 matches that could have closed this show. Tam is the world champion. You could have her and Starlight Kid. No one would have batted an eye. But I think the main reason why they put this on as the main event, no disrespect to the New Japan Strong Champion, no disrespect to Risa Sera, the main reason why this was the main event is because of the star power that Julia is, and nobody can deny that what a huge star that she is. Ultimately, though, I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was good. I enjoyed the violence. We knew what we were going to get. And again, I really even enjoyed the 2 little muff-ups, because you could have very easily put that in and sold it as if that these 2 are fighting so hard that Risa knows what's coming. She's trying to block it, or Julia does not have the strength because she's eating that table and she's eating all those double knees. And I think even Risa Sera even did like the Misawa Emerald Frozen in this match, which I never seen her do before. So you could have put the point on that. I see people's gripe with it. I understand it. I respect it. Do I agree with it? Not 100%. Again, I thought this was a really enjoyable match. I actually had it at 4.25 stars, and I thought it was a pretty good way to end what was a fantastic show.
I gave it 3.5. We were quite a distance apart, and I think it was like, I can see your point completely with, you know, the whole being too exhausted to perform a move. I think it comes from, because I don't feel like there was the chemistry. I don't feel like they earned that sort of exhaustion to not perform the move, if that makes sense. Maybe it's just a me thing. I don't know. It just didn't vibe with me, which is a shame, to be perfectly honest. But something else, and this is something I've been pondering for a couple of weeks now, and it's about the New Japan Strong Women's title, which is now in Julia's 63-day reign, I think it is, off the top of my head. Has defended the belt 3 times, including in America in your presence, Matt, at Impact and New Japan Multiverse United 2.
I was there. You're right.
Now, on the flip side of this, we have got Mayu Iwatani, the IWGP Women's title. Supposedly a prestigious women's title. She has held it for 136 days. She's defended it once. Now, hasn't been abroad with it, which was the whole modus operandi of the IWGP Women's title. Do you think that the New Japan Strong Women's Championship is eclipsing the IWGP Women's Championship in terms of prestige and in terms of how people are perceiving that belt?
100%. And that has nothing to do with Mayu. Mayu is obviously one of the best wrestlers of this or any other generation. Still very much in her prime. The 2 matches that she had, where she won the belt against Mercedes, fantastic. The match with Utami, we covered a few weeks ago. Absolutely fantastic. Must see. If you haven't seen it yet, go out of your way to see it. But just the fact that Julia, she's in the spotlight with it more. She's in these, you're on these shows over here in the United States defending. You're getting more reps with the belt. We've only seen Mayu, again, twice with the belt, once with the defense and once where she won the championship. We're seeing Julia more and more with that. Even the promos, she's cutting promos. We know we have a Diana Perazzo match coming up somewhere in the future. It looks like they're building towards a match with Momo Kogo somewhere as well. We don't have any clue what Mayu's doing next with that belt. Maybe a Tora match, because Tora mentioned it when she beat her in the 5-star just a few weeks ago. But we don't know what Mayu has coming up next with that belt. We thought we were going to see a Nanai match early on, and that kind of fizzled away. We thought they were building Mariah May up for an IWGP Women's match, which I would absolutely love to see both those matches. That's kind of fizzled out as well. So it's like we don't know where they're going, where Julia has, again, not only she had more matches in different areas of the world, but she's also has a lot on her plate with the defense. And it really seems like all roads lead to either at Dream Queendom or at the Tokyo Dome next year, her and Mercedes Moné for that championship. And considering the fact, Rob, that I will be meeting one Mercedes Moné at New York Comic Con, maybe I can get the inside scoop, sir. We shall see.
I'd love that. Please do, because I've never understood, if I'm perfectly honest, why there was a need to bring in the New Japan Strong Women's Championship in the first place. Simply because you already had the IWGP Women's Championship. It is the same people booking both belts. It's like you getting a Nintendo DS for my old brethren out there. It's like getting a Nintendo DS on release day and then them releasing a 3DS the week after. And it's like, well, why is anyone bothered about the DS anymore? It feels very strange. And if this is all because they wanted Mercedes Moné to hold one of the belts, just don't have her drop it to Mayu. You know, have Mayu beat Kairi. Just, you know, pay Mayu the money she wanted, which makes no sense because they've done that now anyway. Pay Mayu the money she wanted, and then have her lose it to Mercedes Moné. Let Mercedes Moné go around the world and defend the IWGP Women's Championship, rather than creating this secondary title, which is now getting far more exposure from the company that books both titles. It's very strange, very weird, and I don't understand it. And you're absolutely spot on, Matt. There is no direction with that belt whatsoever. It is a prop and nothing else at the moment, because no woman has made it to 2 title defenses yet, and Mayu's held it for 136 days, is by far the longest reigning champion, and has defended it once. She's had that smattering of a feud with Nanai Takahashi, who she handpicked. That never happened. Mariah May, that never happened. Everyone that beats her points to the belt. Natsupoi did it. Nothing's coming of that. So you need to decide what the premise of the IWGP Women's Championship is, because without that, there's no direction to it. It's just going to lose all prestige, and it's just going to end up being an afterthought when you could have just kept the SWA belt, ultimately. Anyway, rant over. Let's have a look at what is on the horizon for Stardom. So, next week, we have got a back-to-back weekend. We have got on Sunday... Oh, pardon me. On Sunday, we have got the 5-star Grand Prix carrying on, where we are going to Korakuen Hall, and the card is as follows. Tam Nakano versus Suzu Suzuki in the Red Stars block. In the Blue Stars block, we have got Julia versus Maika. Red Stars sees Starlight Kid versus Hazuki, and Blue Stars sees Saori Anou versus Mirai. And it's worth noting that the Tam versus Suzu matches and the Julia and Maika match are also billed, as well as being 5-star matches, are a continuation of that generational struggle series. I really, really like that. I love how they're playing that into the 5-star matches as well. Matt, what are you excited for in terms of those 5-star matches?
It's going to be a cop-out, but I'm an honest person. Every single one of those matches. I mean,
you're right, that is a cop-out.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look, if Saori Anou beats Mirai, she lays claim that she gets a title shot. She can. So who want to see them run that back? Obviously, Tam and Suzu, I think, going into this tournament, the way that it was built, like a month before the tournament, they had Suzu, Tam was very well toying with Suzu with the belt. I'm like, oh, Tam, I love you so much, but that's not the person to be taunting. So I think a lot of people think that Suzu's going to get the win and then get a title shot leading up into Dream Queendom. So that's going to be great. Starlight Kid and Hazuki, yes, please. I mean, they had one of the best and underrated matches on the loaded 5-star from last year. Mm-hmm. And it's in Korakuen Hall. It's in Korakuen Hall, you said, correct?
It is indeed.
Always a hot crowd. You know they're going to draw 1,500. I mean, they sold out the building last time. Don't see any reason why they won't this time. And obviously, Julie and Maika, that's a match that it's the hardest one for me to predict. I'm going to have to sit down with my notebooks. As of now, the current standings, Rob, I did not mention this last week, the current standings, and I have not done the matches for the second yet, just because I haven't seen them and I don't know who won. The current standings is Amber's beating me by 2 points. Now, for those playing along who listened, for those playing along who listened last year, I completely wiped the floor with by like night 4 or 5. I was light years ahead of her. Now she was, if you remember, she was whipping all of us pretty well early in the tournament. About a week ago, I caught up and we were tied, but I think she's up by 2. Again, I will later on tonight. I will be watching the shows from the second, so I don't know who I'm going to pick for that Julia Micah match. I don't know. I don't know which way it's going to go because I can see Micah winning the block, but I know a lot of us do have Julia and Utami as pretty much almost like the finals of the block. I might cop out and say TLD. I might go with the Ogawa special. We haven't seen a time limit draw in about a month. We might be overdue. I don't know, but regardless, as a fan, I'm so looking forward to each and every one of those matches, and I don't know where I would even rank them, from which one I'm looking forward to the most, the second, third, or fourth. And the fact that it's in Cork and Hall, which is pretty much Stardom's like unofficial home base, and the crowd is always molten. There's very, very few empty seats, which I love seeing. Would not be shocked if the building sold out. I'm super excited for that. And not to put you on the spot, partner, are there any other matches announced other than the 5-star for that Cork and show coming up this weekend?
The entire card has been announced. So also on that card, we have got Lady C and Miyu Amasaki versus Hanako and TBD. We have got Saki Kashima and Syuri versus Natsupoi and Yuna Mizumori. We have got Mayu Iwatani, Koguma and Momo Kogo versus Natsuka Tora, Ruaka and Fukigen Death. And then we've got a tag match, Mirai May and Waka Tsukiyama versus Mei Hoshisuki. Mei Seira. She was Mei Hoshisuki. And Megan Bain.
Solid stuff.
Solid stuff indeed. It's worth noting then, ladies and gentlemen, these are your standings at the moment. Red Stars block, Natsuka Tora 6-2, 12 points, still in the lead, which unfortunately does mean with her only having one match left, that the vast majority of the block, if they lose 3 matches, are out. Natsupoi is in second, 4-1-1 on 9 points. Syuri and Tam both tied in third, 3-1-1 in 7. Mayu eliminated from the tournament, 3 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 7 points. Amisori eliminated, 2-3. She's on 4 points and is eliminated. Suzu has to win every single match to stay in the tournament. She's lost 3 matches but did beat Tora, so would have the tiebreak. She is on 4 points. Starlight Kid, as we said earlier, is out 2-4 on 4 points. Hazuki 2-3 on 4 points. She isn't eliminated as she has got Natsuka Tora on the final night and needs to win every single match. Again, I fully think that could happen. I think she could go through the rest of this tournament and beat Tora on the final night. I just think it happens. In Blue Stars...
Here, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just thinking, I think here's what's going to happen. Off the top of my head, putting no money on it because we know how great I am at these predictions. I think Suzu beats Tora at the final night. Not Suzu. Hazuki beats Tora in the final night, and Hazuki's the leader until Sherry's match. And Sherry and Hazuki will have tied in points, but because Sherry has beaten Hazuki, Sherry will go on to the finals, and we will have a Utami versus Sherry final. That is my prediction that I'm putting no money on.
And then we would have our first 2-time winner of the tournament. In Blue Stars block, you should mention Utami is top as it stands 4-2 on 8 points. Julia is in second, 3-2-1 on 7. That seems to be everyone's thought that is going to be the block final. Mirai sits in third, 3-2 on 6 points. Mariah May, Mina, and Momo Watanabe are all tied for fourth with a 3-3 record, all on 6 points. Soriano sits just below them on 6 points, but with 1 less victory, 2 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws. Micah below them, 2 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw on 5 points. And Azumi still alive in the block, 2-3 on 4 points. And then Hannon eliminated from the block, 1-5, 2 points. So with that being said, I'm just going to quickly whip through this Dream Tag Festival, and we will get going. So, in terms of this, we have got, and this is in no particular order at all, we have got Julia and Suzu Suzuki taking on Utami Hayashishita and Maika. Yes, please. We have got Mayu Iwatani and Saki Kashima taking on Azumi and Starlight Kid. Even more, yes, please. Tam Nakano and Mina Shirakawa, the return of Dream H, are taking on Natsupoi and Saori Ano, the tag champs. Hazuki and Natsuko Tora, who of course are facing each other on the last night of the 5-star, will be taking on Nanai Takahashi and Ruaka. We've also got Mirai and Mei Sakurai, who is returning to action, taking on Rina and Hina. We've also got Momo Watanabe and Momo Kogo, double Momo, taking on Hanan and Mariah May. We've also got a gauntlet tag, which is going to see Shiori and Amisori, Lady C and Miyu Amasaki, Waka Tsukiyama and Yuna Mizumori, Megan Bain and Mei Seira, and Koguma and Saya Ida. I'm not going to ask for your predictions on this, Matt, because it seems that we are going to get some stories wound into it, but we're also just going to set up some fun little tag matches that we wouldn't ordinarily see. The one that there's two that really stick out to me, and that's Julia and Suzu Suzuki, the partnership in general, but also against Utami and Maika. That's going to slap. And then the match between Tam and Mina versus the tag champs, Saori Ano and Natsupoi. Those are both going to be matches to keep an eye on.
Yeah, not only that, but then you have Azumi and Starlight Kid, arguably the two greatest high-speed wrestlers in the company's history, up against Mayu and Saki. And consider the fact that Saki is the current high-speed champion. And it's funny because if you're new to say you've only been watching Stardom 5-6 months and you don't know the history that well, if you were to say, okay, which one of these teams are former tag champs? I'm sure a lot of people would say Starlight Kid and Azumi, but no, it's Saki Kashima and Mayu. And it's just fun because now that Saki is supposedly turned to the light side, she's now a Jedi, turned from Sith, if we're going to go Star Wars reference. It'll be interesting to see what she's going to do with Mayu, if she's just going to be another thorn in Mayu's side. So that could be entertaining in about 9 different ways as well. But yeah, this Dream Tag thing, I hope it becomes an annual tradition. And I hope it's something maybe they stream on YouTube live or the next day or something, because it's really interesting, and it's something, and it's a fan vote. And anytime you can get the fans involved in something, it just makes it that much more special.
Can we briefly just talk about the press conference that led to this, with Mayu and Saki sitting next to each other, and the IWGP Championship slips off Mayu's shoulder and literally clips Saki Kashima's leg, and she makes out like Mayu's done it on purpose and is holding her knee and is really scared. It's brilliant. Just everything that has gone on with those two in the past, I love that team. I think it'll work really, really well. But, Matt, I think, despite the fact that we only had one show to talk about, we've still gone 2 hours, because of course we have. So let's get out of people's hair.
We still have one more. We still have one more segment to do, buddy. You said you're going to add it to your notes.
I've completely forgotten. I was so busy trying to get us out of here so you could go for your meeting. I completely forgot that it's time for Io and Kairi watch.
Io and Kairi watched. Well, there's not much Kairi in the WWE, so the Io watch this week. I don't even look at my notes because it was this simple. They played a clip of 2 weeks ago on SmackDown of Io and Bayley beating up Bianca Belair, taking out her knee, and she will be on the shelf for a little bit. And then they showed a clip of about a month or so ago of Io and Bayley cutting Shotzi's hair, which leads to Bayley versus Shotzi with Io and Dakota Kai, both at ringside. It's a fairly good match between Shotzi and Bayley, but it's Io watch, not Bayley watch. Eventually, Bayley decides that she wants to use Io's belt as a weapon. And then once the camera catches that, one Charlotte Flair comes down the ring, boots Io in the face, giving Shotzi the win and setting up a tag match coming up this week on SmackDown of Shotzi and Charlotte Flair taking on the team of Io Shirai and Bailey. So there is your EO watch for the week, sir.
Well, in terms of Kairi, we've had a couple of announcements. There is the last voyage in Osaka, scheduled for the 16th of the 9th, so 16th of September at HEP Center in Osaka. I don't know whether that is a wrestling show or whether it's just like a meeting. I don't know. I couldn't find anything on it. I'm sure someone will tell me. We've also got the last voyage in Tokyo, which, get this, is a literal cruise with Kairi.
Wow. How come they haven't figured that out 10 years ago? You know what I mean?
I mean, that's incredible. It's billed as the last and first cruise event featuring Kairi. And then, of course...
One and done.
Absolutely. Imagine if she's scared of water. And then we've...
You killed the gimmick, brother. You just killed the gimmick.
And then finally, in 2 days' time, on the 8th of September, she will be in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Wrestling alongside Sayori Ano against the team of Unagi Sayaka and Sari. So that is certainly one to keep your eyes out for. Should be a great match as we wend towards the end of Kairi's time in Japan. But, Matt, with that being said, it's now time to get out of people's hair. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. Thank you for sticking with us due to all our rambles and all that sort of thing. Thank you for all of your support. We could not do this without you. Thank you to everyone that listens, everyone that subscribes, everyone that's joined our Patreon. Thank you. If you aren't already subscribed, consider subscribing to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Patreon if you haven't already for literal mountains of bonus content. You can find that at patreon.com/the Stardomcast. You can find us on all manner of social media at the Stardomcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Stardomcast. Again, if you could leave us a 5-star review and a comment on your podcast app of your choice. I saw that there was a couple more. Thank you so much to those people. That would really greatly help us out, and it's free. And you can also talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Matt Turner, sign us off.
Absolutely. One more thing I want to say before I give us the plugs and sign us off is it's the ever important bye boy. If you guys want to get a hold of me, you didn't think you were getting out. You didn't think you were getting out of a podcast with that, did you, brother?
Honestly.
If you want to get a hold of me, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter. If you want to shoot me an email, that's perfectly fine as well. The StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via email. Like Rob said, folks, we cannot do this without your fantastic support. We see each and every day. We greatly appreciate it. And any suggestions that you have for the podcast or Patreon or alternate commentaries or reviews, just fire them our way. Because like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast because we're all together and everybody's different. Everybody's special.